18. If we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Planning Board members present tonight, regular member Sean Winston, Niall Shore, the Vice Chair Paul Bovair, and regular member Nicole Fecto. Absent tonight is the alternate, Mike LaRue. We also have our town planner here, and we're missing our planning technician and town webmaster, newly married person, yeah.
And master's candidate.
And master's candidate, right.
That's where he's at tonight.
Moving on to the public comment session, it's open to any resident or property owner in the town of Berwick to talk about anything relating to the planning board, so feel free to come forward to the podium and talk about anything about the planning board in town. Public comment session is open. Seeing nobody come forward, we'll close the public comment session. Moving on to the approval of minutes, August 16th, 2018. And I was absent, so I will abstain.
I was absent as well, so I'm going to abstain.
Niles was here, Sean was here, and I was here.
Yeah, you guys can vote
I
on
have,
that.
but James is not here to chastise.
I'm sure he'll be listening.
On the second page, discussions on animals. The first paragraph starts with Niall Shore. Second paragraph is Miss Barth, who was in the audience at the time from a prior topic. And it should say, Ms. Barth pointed out the problem is not necessarily the chickens that make the noise. It is the rooster that is the problem.
Yep. Okay. Is that it?
That's all I could find, sorry.
Anybody else? Okay, motion would be for approval of the minutes as amended.
So moved.
So seconded.
All in favor? Okay, that's 3-0 to abstain. All right. All right, moving on to our guest this evening, Jay Wheeler. Evening, Jay.
Good evening. Jay Wheeler, Administrator of the Berwick Sewer District. I'm here with Chairman Stephanie Roquefort and Member John England. I was asked by Mr. Bellissimo, told that the board wanted to consider the 2,500-foot requirement for connecting to the sewer for minor and major subdivisions. And so that's why we're here. Questions are yours, I guess, really, at this point, because that's a town ordinance that was put into place at the time to concentrate growth towards the center of town was the idea. At least that's, my wife was on the board then, that's what she said, so. But it sewer pretty much limits itself just because of the expense. It's weighing, if somebody's looking at subdividing a property, it's weighing what do I gain in density, how many more house lots can I get by being on public utilities rather than not, so. There's quite a bit to consider, I think, if you're looking at changing it. Right now, what does exist is that, other than the 2,500-foot rule itself, Berwick ordinance requires anybody in the R1 to connect because our sewers are already here, which makes sense. And the sewer district's charter requires a property, any single property whose lot line lies within 100 feet of a right-of-way containing our sewer is required to tie in.
Okay, Nicole, I know you had questions.
I did. Well, actually, I wanted to look up what we did approve, because we did approve a change, but it didn't go through to the subdivision regulations. Was that what the issue was? And the change that we approved was shortening the amount of, so it wasn't 2,500 feet, and I don't remember what it was. I was trying to look it up.
Was it 250?
I want to say it was 250. This way it would be easier to tie in. People would be more likely to tie in as development goes more into the R2 zone, because we are theoretically running out of space to put subdivisions in the R1 zone. So as we get into R2, I know even down Pine Hill Road, there are some places where developers have thought about expanding and putting some houses, but they're within that 2,500 and it's just not feasible to put houses in there. with the cost of tying into the sewer. There's one place in particular I can think of that it was literally right within like 2,450 feet, and to bring 2,450 feet of sewer. the-
I remember
the-
one subdivision, you can think of the road. Um, But it was approved by this board. They came to us to say, where's your nearest sewer going down Knox Lane?
Yeah,
And it fell within 2,500 feet, so they subdivided one lot off so that the rest of it, I mean, it must have been just minor
yeah,
subdivision,
yeah.
subdivided one lot off
Yeah.
so that the rest of them, when they
Outside of it, yeah.
subdivided, fell outside that, so they could
Right.
use leach fields. But, I mean, you'll get those sort of rule games anywhere.
yeah,
Wouldn't our goal be to be consistent between the town of Berwick, the land use ordinance, the subdivision regulations, the Berwick Sewer District, and the water department of the town to have the same number that requires you to connect to public utilities if you're X number of feet away from it? And I think, if anything, we've probably made it worse over the last few years by having different numbers for different requirements. And I think the water department's a little different now, and I wish James were here. Lee J may know what it is. It's a lot less than 2,500. Not-
I'm looking at it right now, and I don't know if my ordinance is up to date or not, but this is a number we have not bounced around before. But it says under public system sewage disposal, any subdivision located within 1,500 feet of a public sanitary sewer line within the area designated in the comprehensive plan for future public sewage disposal services shall be connected to the sewer.
Shall be. So you have to do it. And I can give an example that I'm sure Jay's going to be familiar with. And right across Wisterbrook on Blackberry Hill Road, just beyond the elementary school, a 13-lot subdivision was just, I believe, just outside the 2,500 feet, so they didn't have to connect.
For sewer.
If they had connected, they could have packed a lot more than the 13 lots they proposed. So they went with septic and stayed with 13 lots.
Yeah, his predicament, was that because the water line went down to the school, they had to drag the water line across the brook and to service the subdivision, which was a big expense if they just
Exactly.
had 13 lots. But the sewer was far enough away so they didn't have to tie into
Yeah.
that. And so, in that case, yeah, that pretty much, he was my neighbor. I mean, he was hoping to build a nice subdivision with some big lots and pretty homes, but, dragging the water out to it, not the sewer, just didn't do it for him.
So besides making everything consistent across the map, to me, the other thing to consider, and it was partially, and I was part of it, the old planning board's fault. When we came up with this 2,500 feet a long time ago, we said, well, you have R1, which is urban, you have R3, which is rural, then you have R2, which is transitional, and we wanted that to provide the R1 to R3 gap, a proportional type growth pattern. And we really blew it because a half a mile is way too much for an increment
Yeah.
to grow out from the center.
yeah.
And I'm thinking, and you're in the real estate business, I'm thinking 500 feet or something
Yeah.
would make a heck of a lot more sense to grow so
Yeah.
that you don't grow a half a mile and then boom, all of a sudden that half a mile
Well, you're
grows
just
up.
not going to grow a half a mile. I mean,
No.
the Berwick lot prices don't support that. And with a new downtown going in, we still want to concentrate people here. We don't want people going 2,500 feet
And we've
down the
already
road.
had, we had an
want
example
want
last
them
year
being
with,
closer.
apartment houses on outer Cemetery Road
Yep.
right next to R3. So we really need to revisit and be consistent
Yeah.
across all of them.
Personally, and we were to come back with maybe a recommendation or something supported by the sewer district, I'd want the board all to be involved in discussion. But I just don't think, I don't know. I think you need to consider a lot more things. Like the meeting we went to last night
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Paul, we're talking about nitrogen.
Yeah.
And, you consider by zone possibly, not just a strict limit, by soils. And, this whole nitrogen problem that we're all going to face is being proactive, as it was explained, the leach fields don't really take out nitrogen. It's
Right.
soluble and it
And it
flows into
travels
Great
much
Bay. And
beyond
so,
your septic system.
if you've got
Yeah.
septic systems on
Yeah.
poor soils is not a good idea. And so really, it should also be considering the soils before you allow somebody to build septics on that. So I think it's something that really, environmentally anyway, the board should take a little bit of time to consider.
Mhm.
But that's just my opinion.
You got anything, Niles? Sean?
No, not at the moment, no.
So this essentially was put in order to, this requirement to focus where development should be in town. As just some type of mechanism to allow that, right? That's
Yeah,
that's
it's a
solely
gra-
what it
gradual
was.
We've
growth
seen a
at
lot
the
of
right
roadblocks.
place.
I've seen a lot of roadblocks, and there are a lot of roadblocks, which is why people are building out in R3, which is not what we want. We want them close to town, especially if we're going to build shops and stores and restaurants for them to go to. We need them in R1, we need them in R2.
That, I mean, I've said for a long time, I told the guys that I think I've even recommended it before to planning, that we don't really need that requirement. Sewer tends to limit itself by expense.
It
It's
does.
the weighing how much more it costs to build that sewer up this road and how many more lots can I get. But I think from this board's or the town's perspective, you should consider other things, like soils, or where do you really want that building to happen,
We
little
did
more
add
thought.
some, a few years back, we added some things in the land use ordinance that looks at the amount of dry soil, or good soil, that will be adequate for septic systems. So you couldn't get like a 300 by 300 R3 lot
Yeah.
that was 2/3 wet. Find one little spot for a septic tank. You had to have.
You have to show a replacement area.
You have
a-
to
a
reduce your
backup.
lot size by whatever wetlands you may have on your
Right.
lot, that kind of stuff, but I think we need to go further. And I agree with you that we need to maybe look at soils type, and maybe that may be a major change,
Yeah.
because you have to have a soil scientist involved.
Lee J?
Well, I was just gonna ask, do we have a map, a GIS map that shows where the sewer lines are? I know that's not only a public accessible map, but is there one that you folks have?
Yeah, we've got it, I've got it built. There's a couple more things that we're tweaking on it. Al Schaefer, who was a good friend of mine, I mean, I connected him with the town, and of course, he's been working on your maps, and we have a layer that's just, ready to share with the town, so you can just layer it on your maps when you guys want to look at it. Show you where all the sewers and manholes and everything are, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be part of a good exercise. I understand on a lot-by-lot basis, the soils are a concern, and nitrate, and phosphates, and plumes from where they go if they're on a septic is important. But I think it's also important to know where those lines currently end, and how far further out do you want that development to go on sewer. 2,500 feet or 1,500 feet is a long way, which if you do that, you're encouraging higher densities development further out of town, which is what you talked about, is it 500 feet? So I think knowing where the limits of the sewer line is around the perimeter of the town in the R1 zone or wherever it may be, I think is another important aspect that we want to consider in looking at this whole issue, because then it might make you decide, we only want to go 250 feet or
Yeah.
500 feet rather than 1,500 feet, because it's pushing us further out. So that's, if we can get that layer, that would be a big help.
Sure. The other thing that's out there is also, we have our master plan, a build-out in all kinds of areas, like all the way out Route 9
So
for
you-
industrial, that is incorporated into the town's comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
Oh.
You've
Do we
got
have,
it.
do we have an updated version of that?
The town's comprehensive plan hasn't been.
Well, I have it hasn't been updated. So is your master plan?
Yeah, it's still the same.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And I
Ours was in
apologize.
97,
Well, I didn't know
I
if it
believe.
had been updated or not, but
I haven't looked for that, and I'm
Yep.
encouraged for you to do that, because a lot of towns refuse to do a master build-out plan because they don't want to encourage development
Oh.
further out, so they don't want people seeing where they're, what the
Yeah.
master plan says.
It's
It's interesting to me, because I've been dealing with that in other communities.
with the stuff that's growing like on Route 9, that just, I think about is like, that's something where if you want to develop industrial or commercial growth,
Absolutely.
you should sort, I mean, everybody's, or will say this, previous town managers have always liked the thought of going out to Route 4, out Blackberry Hill Road to provide sewer so we could get more development there.
Right.
So
That's something that everybody would have to look at, because we're sure not going to afford it.
Well, and I think, again, that if you've got that, that would be important for us to be able to look at, so that we know,
Mhm.
going
If you look at the R1 into R2
Yep.
land use map, we have what we call elephant trunks. I'm sure it's like one of these long skinny things that go out.
Yep.
And we have one heading all the way up Pine Hill.
Yep.
We have a short one heading out Route 9, School Street.
Yep.
And we got another one heading out towards the primary school on Blackberry Hill.
Right.
Not much of it goes down 236.
No.
And a lot of it has to do with elevations up and down. And I don't know if that makes sense to have elephant trunks because,
Well, there's a couple of theories about it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great piece to talk about because one of the communities that I worked in, we had elephant trunks. We had bands that didn't go any further than, in most cases, 750 feet deep on the road. And that was one zone, and then everything behind it was a less dense zone. So it encouraged higher density development along the road frontage, and where utilities were more accessible.
Pine Hill.
Yeah, and discouraged that type of density development behind it. I'm talking miles and miles, but same theory. But I also think it would be important to get the master plan or the thought of where sewer wants to go, because that might change some other policy thoughts about zoning.
The one place we did consider the master plan was that subdivision on Blackberry Hill across from the school, the 90-lot subdivision. I mean, they wanted to just put their own pump system on the property and put a line along the road up to where our sewer was on Berwick Road. And, which didn't make so much sense. And what we finally came to is that if you want to have sewer, we had then come up with a plan with the pump station at Worcester Brook. And so if you ended up going out Blackberry Hill Road, you flowed gravity to Worcester Brook and then pump it up the road. So, I mean, that's the way it's designed. It's really designed with pumps in order to handle that subdivision, but when they build it, it's supposed to be a station that has places for other pumps that would be able to handle growth.
That was kind of unique, though, because you went behind the 4 or 5 existing lots across from the
Yeah.
school so that you wouldn't impact their cost of connecting to town sewer.
Yeah, I was feeling bad for the neighbors. They said, well, he bought the property next door so he
Yeah.
could keep it behind their houses and not go down the road, which was cheaper anyway, not disturbing the road, you know. Go
So
ahead.
if I may, another question is, in looking at that for the future, are you folks objectionable to having additional pump stations, or are you accepting of the fact that you're gonna need them? Because that too could limit, where and how much development occurs, because if you don't wanna have 20 pump stations out there that, could go down when power goes out and all that stuff, maintenance issues, then that might make a difference as well as where, development goes and whether it gets on
Mm-hmm.
sewer or not.
Primarily, anything built that's going to be attached to our sewer will be by our sewer standards.
Yeah.
And, if somebody's going to be putting in a pump station, that means we're going to have more customers. And, there's entrance fees and everything to support that and the growth. And, so it's something that, we're willing to take as long as it's built by our standards.
Oh,
And
of course,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You would certainly require that in studies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Anybody else? Is that it? All right,
Yeah.
thanks, Jay.
Do you have anything to say, Stephanie? No? I know she likes to talk. Introduce.
Let her talk.
I'm Stephanie Rochford. I'm the current chair of the Board of Trustees of the Berwick Sewer District. And I just can't pass up a quick opportunity to take 2 minutes just to put in a plug for don't flush those wipes that are supposed to be flushable. They really aren't. All that means is they may clear your toilet bowl, and it doesn't mean that they won't clog up your internal plumbing in your home. And if you're hooked into town sewer, they could plug up our pump stations, plug up, if they get to the treatment plant, they could plug up our pumps and mess things up at the facility. And if you have your own septic tank in your home, then it can really do a number on that.
And we will DNA test those wipes, find out who you are, and come after you.
Thank you.
That's disgusting.
I had
Are
to.
you collecting the samples?
All right, thank you.
where do we go from here with this topic? Is that,
I mean, should we get an official recommendation from the Board of Trustees of the Sewer District maybe on this so that we have something?
Yes, that would be a good idea. Can you supply us with such a thing?
50 feet? Perfect. Put
Definitely
it in writing.
seeing the limits of what we have for sewer now, I think is important to see, you know, and then what's the master plan? Is there a master plan to extend any of that?
Yep.
Which would then maybe bring some lots in some development space, you know, into play for a shorter connection distance.
We don't have any plans,
Future.
excuse me, for extending the sewer as it is. If somebody wants to, that's fine. The only time that would come into play, as I explained to these guys, is if a neighborhood started to experience several failed septic systems. You know, as my example was out towards Key Brook, you know, or failed water wells because the septics aren't working. Then, you know, as part of our district, we have to figure out a way to get there and solve that. Anyway.
I guess we should probably look at a map and see where the,
Well, definitely, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, I was gonna dovetail off what Sean was saying, is I'd really like to be able to overlay
Mhm.
the existing sewer line location with, the master plan location and the zoning in town, so that we can look at where we're at today, where the future may be, if anybody does an extension, and how that relates to your current zoning, before you make any decisions, because I suspect at this point, we're talking, any changes is gonna be in spring.
Yeah, June, right, yeah.
So, I think we should work this over the winter.
Yeah.
We don't need to take our time
Mhm.
and do something, but if James can get those layers,
Yep.
he can whip up a map for us, and I can take a look at it with you, and we can start, talking about some different.
I think that's the
aspects
best
of
idea, yeah. Now, is that map confidential? Can it be shared with the public?
No, it'll be public. I mean, it's basically what you have.
I don't know if there's like, I don't know if you had like security issues with
just
it.
create a layer that nobody can manipulate, and you know, my plan, our plan is to attach it to our website, same as the town, whatever you want to share.
Yep.
Would be, public information. You don't want to put, you can't let anybody into your site so they can manipulate your data.
Well, and we don't want water valve locations or anything like that. We don't need.
Well, that's it. Like a FEMA thing.
Yeah,
you
like
know.
Homeland Security stuff,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Just sewer.
Okay,
Right.
all right, so
So it's
definitely.
just
We
water
have more
systems.
information on ours for
Yes.
maintenance purpose and all
Okay.
that, but it's just to show where the lines and
Yeah,
the
okay.
size of them and where the manholes are. type
yeah,
of thing.
shouldn't we include the water department lines on that? Whatever we come up with the final,
Water is less important to this issue.
Yeah,
If
'cause you can
someone's on
pump
a
it with
well, that's
pressure.
fine, the sewer is the more important issue.
so we should not include the water lines.
I don't
Should
think
we have the same distance as far as land use, connection distances? Should they be the same for water and sewer? Can they be independent? In other words, you can have 500 feet for sewer, but, because you got to dig up the road if you're
Right.
going to do either one.
Right. I mean, they can be independent, because, the sewer system is, or the sewer collection system is more important to development in the sense of, not in the sense of, are they getting enough water for the development, but, where is the effluent going? And if we can put it into an enclosed system, it makes a lot more sense. It's healthier all the way around, versus water.
If you can pump it or you can get it off a pipe, then,
And without a septic system on the lot, it's easier to locate a well anywhere. With a septic system, then you have setbacks from the septic for the well
Correct.
location. So you're,
100-foot buffers.
yeah.
Water is cheaper, by the foot to move it around. You can go further.
But for the purposes of what you're trying to achieve, that's, we don't need that for that exercise.
okay.
Anything else on sewers? All right, thank you. All right, moving on to new business this evening. Medical marijuana production facility, 513 Portland Street, RCI zone. The applicant is Trican Alternatives. BJ?
Yes, sir.
Feel free, you guys don't have to stay here, obviously. I mean, I know, unless you,
We know John probably wants to,
don't, we're not going to be offended if you walk out right now.
but you can go now.
There's an empty chair.
Yeah, we got a couple empty chairs.
Come on, John, you don't want to stay and, you know, the good old days?
Bye, guys. Yeah.
All right, Lee J.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay, so Trican Alternatives, a medical marijuana facility, is seeking approval to relocate the state licensed kitchen to the town of Berwick. The applicant has put together a proposal as part of the submission that describes the operation and what they are looking to accomplish at the facility. The structure they are proposing to locate in is in the RCI, zone and is a multi-unit facility. This location allows medical marijuana production facilities as a conditional use. As a conditional use, the planning board needs to consider the performance standards from both Articles 7 and 8, Section 8.25 of the zoning ordinance. Article 7 includes all the standards like noise, smoke, vibration, etc. Article 8, 8.25 is specific to marijuana-related uses. The board may want to familiarize yourself, I hope you did, between last meeting and now, with those performance standards. The applicant has provided an odor control plan, but at this time has not provided any security plan for the facility, so you may want to discuss that with them. While it is not a grow facility, I would suggest that other security features be spelled out for the planning board as well as the police department. Any kind of cameras, any kind of locking of doors and windows, that sort of thing, for additional security around the building. The next action steps for you would be to find the application complete, request additional information pertaining to the security if you choose to do that, and set a date for either a site visit and or a public hearing. I have provided you with a very rough draft of the findings of fact at this point, but more work is needed as the project moves.
Yeah, these findings of fact,
Very, very
what are the blocks here that are all highlighted?
stuff I need to work on.
So stuff that's not accurate?
Yes.
Okay, because I was going to say, I don't remember doing a site walk
Nope.
on May 17th.
Nope,
No, I checked my book.
Yeah, I was
We
like-
did not.
Other findings.
Okay, I got you. All right, if the applicant would like to come forward. And if you could just state your name and your address for our viewers at home and for the record.
Sure, my name is Aaron Barth, and the site that we are looking to relocate to is 513 Portland Street in Berwick. I'm also a resident, well, soon-to-be resident on 31 Wentworth Road as well, which is very close.
Welcome to Berwick.
Thank you. So, I guess we'll just get to addressing the potential security concerns. We are currently operating in North Berwick at 19 Buffum Road, Unit 5, and we've been there for, our occupancy was last April, so we're there a year and a half now. We currently use WirePro security systems. We're fully wired up with cameras and audio security, both internal and external of the building. We do intend on mirroring the setup at 513. With both internal and external to third-party monitoring station.
You're not moving the North Berwick facility.
We're not moving
You're just
the-
expanding, you're just starting another
So we're not
one.
moving the grow facility. So currently, at 19 Buffum Road, we do have a state licensed kitchen, and we're just enlarging it. We're increasing the size of it, as well as relocating our extraction as well, which is ethanol extraction.
And you have another license now for Berwick? Do you need another license for another, for two different facilities, or no?
No, it won't be for two facilities. It's, because the grow facility, I guess it would fall under That's a great question.
So what are you
Great
going to be
question.
doing
So-
in Berwick?
So we're gonna have to, once we move the processing, so we're applying for the processing license, state processing license, which we've already submitted our application for. So, sorry, my attorney was on that one, not me. So we've already submitted our application for the processing license. So that will be separate from our grow facility.
And what's going to be happening in Berwick?
That will be processing our kitchen, where we'll be making. So I specialize in compound formulations for capsule applications, where we formulate different compounds of all the different cannabinoids. We can get into it, but I'm sure you don't want to hear about it. For specific conditions, as well as your standard edibles and things like that. In addition, so we'll be manufacturing both our capsule line as well as doing our edibles and doing our extractions from the cannabis in North Berwick, brought to Berwick location to extract the oils, so that we can make our capsules and do all that compounding.
So you're
necessary.
physically bringing plants, sorry.
So
No,
all
we
the-
won't
all-
be bringing plants. We'll be bringing trimmed, cured
Yeah.
product.
Ready to process.
All the
I don't understand
So-
anything about marijuana.
all,
So
all
all-
the processing happens in North Berwick, and will be brought to the
But I
Berwick
think it's
location.
important to remember, we are only talking medicinal marijuana.
Absolutely.
At this point, this is all we're talking about.
So, yeah, I don't intend on going for the rec
Yeah,
licenses.
right up front, I think you have to
I want to
separate
put that
the
on the
two.
table. I'm not interested in the rec licenses. That's not why I got
And
into
all the
this.
growing is going to be done in North Berwick.
All the growing
So
is
clipping it there and then transporting it to Berwick to process.
all the curing gets done in North Berwick. The only thing that will be done in Berwick is the processing of the edibles and capsules and things like that. Balms.
Suggest, Mr. Chairman, that when we get to that point, part of your site visit, if accessible with Mr. Barth, might be to his current facility in North Berwick, so that you can see what they're doing for processing that will be moved into Berwick. Not just looking at the site and what they're
That's a
gonna
good
do
idea.
here, but actually seeing the operation, if it's possible to visit that and get a better understanding of that part of the process.
So there'll be nothing that you'll do in Berwick that you're not now doing in North Berwick. Is that correct?
There's nothing that I'll be doing in.
All of the functions that you do in Berwick, you're already doing in North
We're
Berwick?
already doing in North Berwick. We're not
You're
doing
not
it.
adding any
We're not
functions
adding
at all?
anything new. No.
So
Thank
I understood, Niles, so that you're adding office space in the Berwick facility that you don't have in North Berwick.
No, we have office space in North Berwick. We're just going to relocate it. We just want to be in one building as far as operations go.
So the office space and the conference rooms and things that were mentioned the first time you were here,
Sure.
they're already existing in North Berwick.
There's an office. There's no conference room in North Berwick, but there is offices. Yes, we do have offices. And we're currently, we do meet patients there as well.
Yeah.
By appointment only.
Let me just take a look here. Just trying to picture where 513 is.
Me too.
So.
Where is it near?
It's right adjacent to Salmon Falls Nursery offices, if you know where that is.
There's a Google map in here.
Yeah, it was proposed to be a
There's a sheet
7-unit
metal
residential.
sheet metal company across the street as well.
Salmon Falls Nursery.
And I've
It's
had.
it's right next to the power transfer station or whatever that is.
Yep, no, I know. So if you're heading towards North Berwick, you pass Salmon Falls, and it's the building right after that. Okay.
And
Correct.
I have had James measure and try to identify if there were any schools or daycare centers or anything, churches within 1,000 feet, and there's no we do not fall into any of those standards, or this application does not fall into any of
Yeah,
those.
we did that as well before.
What type of security do you going to have for the building?
Um,
Besides the cameras?
Well, we're going to be storing all of our product in safes when not in the building. But other than that, you know, your standard deadbolt door locks with window alarms and door alarms, motion detector.
Will they be wired back to,
The third party,
PD
so,
or
yeah,
third
that would go to Wire Pro. So it's been implemented at our facility due to error. We've tripped our alarms, and it just goes right to Wire Pro, and then if we
Just
don't,
testing,
if
right?
we don't respond, the police show up and show our license.
It may be
and-
good to note that
Yeah.
probably the South Berwick PD would be there first before Berwick there, or North Berwick.
I was there today, and there was a Berwick police officer sitting in the parking lot, so I don't know.
Good.
Have you had any issues security-wise, other than false alarms at North Berwick? Any problems?
None,
No.
none.
Will you be using the whole building?
Half
Okay,
the building.
because there's like a hair salon in that building.
Yeah. So she's doing a hair salon, and I think she's looking to put in a spa or something like that. So I think right now it was she had something like eight units. We're obviously taking half of that building, so that's got what, 4 units. So we're eliminating some of her residential units that she would have had available.
I think there's 7 there now, Nicole.
My question is really more about odor, and I know you have
Sure.
odor control plan, but I've been in processing facilities. Actually, it was one, like, I'm a real estate agent, and somebody
Sure.
was like doing medical marijuana
I stink
processing.
right now from trimming.
Yeah,
so
in their
believe me,
in their
I get it.
basement, and actually they did really good odor control, but I could still tell when I walked down
Sure.
there. So my concern would be just to make sure that we really look at the odor control plan,
So-
because the rest of the building may smell it also. Never mind outside, but like
Yeah,
the other tenants.
so the units are divided by they're 2x6 wall with homosote on both sides, and then sheetrock on top of that. So they're pretty tight divisions between spaces. And as far as our odor control goes, we do it a little bit different. We do a negative pressure odor control. So where we're actually pulling air into our space, and then venting it outside with carbon filters or carbon scrubbers.
Where is the?
Which is honestly, it's going to be completely unnecessary. Anyways, even though we're going to do it, it's redundant.
But you're not, it's not the same as a grow facility
No.
that is it's very critical to have odor control at a
gosh,
grow
yeah.
facility.
Right, but you still smell it at the processing.
No,
Why
I'm
is
sure,
it not as
yeah.
critical at a processing as opposed to a grow facility?
Because
Aren't you extracting oils? I mean, I would think that would make.
no, because everything's in a sealed system, so everything's being. What you're really smelling more of in our place is ethanol, which is just the alcohol. That's what you smell mostly. It's not the cannabis at all. So everything's been cured and processed, and I don't want to say fumed off, but the terpenes have dried, and we store all of our stuff in sealed bags. There's no odor at all from our capsules or edibles. I mean, you can't even. Our edibles are.
Prove it, Aaron.
Come on over. Best
Just kidding.
How many employees are you going to have working there?
To this point, we'll have our cook and then our processor, myself and my wife, currently. But come, the 9th? the 9th of October, I think we have the ability now to hire on more people if needed. So if need be, we would hire probably a couple more.
And you said that you occasionally might have customers come?
At this juncture, it's by appointment only. Yeah.
Do your tenants
we
in the
can't
other
have
half
mo-
of the building know that
This is
this
my next
application
question.
is starting?
I'm sorry?
The other tenants, you're taking half the building. I think
The
there's
other
7
tenant is the
different
landlord.
uses in that building.
Yeah.
Oh,
The other tenant is the landlord.
who owns the salon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you
So-
talked to any of the other abutters, like Salmon Falls?
No. No. I mean, I've spoken to him before, but not on this topic.
Okay, just curious. All right. Any other questions? Well, I mean, do we think it's, well, let's talk about the security plan a little bit more.
And the odor plan too, if we could,
Mm-hmm.
once you do the security plan.
Yeah, let's talk about the security
Also,
plan.
Sewers, that must be private sewer out there?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is
because I imagine there is some kind of
It-
something that
it
you're
is
washing
private
away,
sewer.
right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be using water or anything like, this isn't
I
like
mean,
a
the
grow
only thing that we
facility.
use water for is washing sheet pans and stuff
Okay.
like that. Just
Okay.
your, our hands.
Okay, all right.
We have a standard hand washing sink and things like that.
Where does the ethanol go when you're done with it, or is that just?
We actually recollect it.
Okay, so you just keep reusing
Just,
that?
yeah, we just keep
Okay.
using it.
Close this one.
Have you talked to the PD yet, either?
No.
Okay. Could you do a security plan?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, what do we want in the security plan? I think that we also, I mean, we want to have,
I mean, what kind of additional things do you think
Lee
would
J.
be necessary?
Yes.
additional things that would be necessary in a security plan. Just stating, that, obviously stating the obvious about the 24-hour monitored security.
I mean, I guess I'd like to, if it's possible, I think what would make sense is, he's got this nice one-page sheet on the odor control. Would be see something on security relevant to the who what you're going to have on site for cameras and that sort of thing. Who the third party is, the protocol for them notifying PD and PD notifying you if there's ever a problem. Just something that kind of lays out what you're going to have for security measures and what the protocol is going to be for people contacting people.
Sure, I can get that in writing. But the way it works now is, if an alarm is tripped, if we don't respond from the third-party monitoring station via their phone call, then an officer is sent out to the site.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's fine, you're putting it on the record here, but if we could have it in writing as
Sure.
well.
Yeah,
just
just to-
how
we
it
can
And
have-
I
If
think
you
it's
could
really
include security in the
necessary
parking
to,
lot, too.
Security in the parking lot. Well, okay.
And you're taking trucks, or these are vans or trucks, what are the size of the vehicles that will transport from North Berwick to Berwick?
Yeah, it's just my own personal vehicle.
Okay.
I mean, we're not talking about tractor trailer truckloads of cannabis. I'm only
Wow,
a caregiver.
can you imagine that?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I said, could you imagine that?
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is enough.
so we're at the junction of 3 towns, North Berwick, South Berwick, and Berwick. You're
Sure.
physically in Berwick. But I think it's important that all 3 PDs are aware of this because they're first responders, and you don't
that's-
know who's going to
yeah.
show up first.
Well, that's why my question was going
Sure.
to be, did we share this application yet with any of the town departments?
No, because you haven't found it complete,
Okay,
and we haven't set
yeah.
a public hearing, but
I
James
think,
will do that.
yeah, and I think the
Yes.
big thing is to let the police chief know,
Absolutely.
and to have a copy of the security plan, not that they would even do anything with it, but just so they would know.
So, look, I'm more than happy to sit down with both North Berwick and Berwick Police Department. If you want me to go to South Berwick, I'll go there too. We're 100% transparent in what we do. We're one of the 100%.
Oh, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with
Well, as
just
far
so
as
they know,
security-
if they get a call in the middle of the night and they have to run out there, and just so they know what they're
they
dealing
know
with.
what the facility
Well,
is.
because I know the police department, they like to know their town, and they like to know what's in certain
Yeah.
businesses and things like
Yeah,
that.
if
So
they get
it's
a
just,
call at 2:00 in the
it's just,
morning, they need to
it's
know
just
what
a
they
matter
do.
of situational awareness for the
I
officers,
agree with
so.
you. I agree.
Yeah, I know, I said it. I said it.
Situational awareness, I like it.
Yeah. Sean knows what I'm talking
I've heard
about.
that before.
Yeah. So, no, it has nothing to do with your business per se.
Sure.
It just has to do with, we share that information. If somebody is going to open up a storage unit, the police should know.
Sure.
We share all that information all the time, but I'm just saying,
Yeah, and-
since
no,
you would be different,
and
you would have a
understand
security plan, yeah.
Well, so I could put together a security plan and a transportation plan as far as how we're going to get our product from point A to point B.
Yeah.
We can do all of that.
So the other thing I can do on our end is once that information is available, I assist North Berwick with planning board stuff. And SMPC staffs, SMPC staffs South Berwick, and I assist North Berwick. So we can certainly make sure that the three communities are aware that he's relocating this operation into what address and whatnot, and to pass it on to the appropriate folks within town. So we'll have it pretty well covered with it.
So at this juncture, just because I signed a lease on the building, are we going to be, we're going to be looking at doing a site visit? Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay. At what juncture would that be? Would that
That's
be?
what we're going to discuss next.
Okay.
Yeah.
And site visit may, hopefully, can include the North Berwick facility, so we see what's coming to Berwick.
Sure.
That would be, I think you mentioned it. It's
I would
just
love that.
really helpful.
Come clean, that's all.
We're learning here.
We're always clean, look at us.
Come in freshly laundered clothes, that's all I ask.
Well, let's talk about the application
One-
first.
One question.
Go ahead, Sean.
One question.
Yeah.
We're talking about a commercial kitchen.
Sure.
Are you including, hoods and fire suppression and that type?
We don't need that just because of the level of cooking that we do. We've already been inspected once by the state, and she kind of gave us the guidelines of what we need, what we don't need. We're not running any kind of gas equipment. We're running electric. As a matter of fact, I just found a beautiful 6-burner electric commercial range for sale. So we'll be running electric.
That was it.
Okay, we want to talk about whether or not we consider the application complete.
Well, I've got a question for Lee.
Certainly.
Can we get one of our consulting engineers to review the odor control plan?
Sure.
That's my request. I don't know what the rest of the board, but I would like to have a consulting engineer just look at it and
Yeah,
tell us if it makes sense.
the hard part would be for me to track one down, unless you already have used one that you have
Don't we have a list, I thought?
of odor type.
Yeah, I don't know which,
I
don't
don't
know
know
if there-
which
I
type
don't
of
know if there
engineer
are
would
such
review
people,
this.
but any engineer
Yeah.
is better than,
I mean, I'll find out from James or Steve if we have used anybody in the past and have contact, and if not, I can try to find one. I've dealt with this with noise. Noise is a little different, and they're a little easier to find. But I will see what I can do for you. Absolutely.
I think you'd have to be looking at like a mechanical engineer.
Or no,
Or
there are
somebody
actually
that can
there are
deal
actually
with
people out there.
Wouldn't
that
it be an
can-
HVAC engineer?
HVAC,
Yeah.
mechanical engineer, that,
Yeah.
somebody to look at like how much air is moving and.
And yes, and I certainly know some of those folks. So.
We do intend on having some vent hoods over in our extraction area. Just
Anything else? Okay, so we want that to be looked at. We also were looking at the security plan is the other thing. Now, do we want to look at the application? Is the application complete?
Should we consider anything being complete before we at
Before we
least
see
look at some odor control especially and security?
That's why I asked the question.
I would say no.
parking?
No, yeah.
Any parking questions?
You got plenty of parking out back, right?
Ton of parking.
So the
I
one
wasn't
thing,
leading you on to say that, but I was
You
asking
were
the
hoping.
question. I was asking the question whether or not which direction that we wanted to go.
I think we should wait until we see some performance type criteria before we say it's complete. I mean, there may be a big stopper in there, we don't know. I mean,
Correct. What do you think?
Can we do a site plan, or do we want to wait?
yeah.
Or a site visit? We can do a site visit.
Site visit, excuse me.
Sure, we could do a site visit on October 4th.
That would be
While
good.
we're waiting for
It's,
this
I,
stuff to come in.
I mean, that's absolutely, we could do that. However, it's still, we're still working on the space.
Yeah, but
That's
the site
fine.
We
visit
need
at
to
the
see
North
it,
Berwick
though.
facility may help us
The North Berwick
understand a little
facility.
better.
Well, we would do both.
Sure.
We would do both. There's many times we do site visits to places that are not
Come on
complete.
over. We'll get jitter mugs.
Would October 4th, that's our next meeting, would that work for you? Thursday, October 4th?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
All right, now if we're going to be
What day-
visiting,
I don't even
that's a
know. Is that
Thursday.
Thursday? Yeah.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks from now. So if we're going to be actually going to two places, we should probably make this a little bit earlier, right?
We should get dinner.
They're 5 minutes apart, though.
They're 5 minutes apart.
Well, can we do 4:30?
I'm retired. So are you,
Real
Niles.
estate agent.
No, it's tough for you.
Yeah,
I'm the only one with a real job
you gotta
around
see what
here.
The only request, well,
They could play the game in the parking
I
lot.
have children that we have to pick up at daycare at 5. So that's my only issue.
Okay, because
Well, if the Berwick building, I mean, do we need to go in, or do we need to just?
Well, I suppose we'll get a babysitter, 'cause somebody else to pick them up. Forget it.
Well, why don't we do it at 5:30? Will that give us enough time?
No,
if we do it?
5:30 is not going to give us enough time.
Okay.
we'd have to have an hour to hit both of them and then get back here for the meeting.
Yeah, and it's a 20-minute drive,
Yeah.
period.
I think it's more important to see the actual,
Here.
what the process is in North
Yeah.
Berwick
Yeah.
than
The-
actually
the-
see
the
the
current-
inside of the.
The
Yeah.
current, what we're doing.
I mean, to me,
I mean,
to
we
see
all
the
know where
inside
the
of the
location-
undeveloped
Right.
structure is,
Yeah.
We can all
think
drive
it's
by the
more-
location of where it's
it'll
going.
be more telling for everybody to see, how the process
Mm.
actually goes.
You don't have to add any septic facilities on the new site or anything like that. No external, it's all within the building, is that
Yeah,
correct?
there's no additional sewage usage,
Yeah.
what we're doing.
You're right, because I know that's a very tight site. There's an empty foundation.
Yeah,
Is that going to get used in any way?
not by us.
Not by you.
I mean, the landlord, I don't know what her intentions are with it. No.
All right, so October 4th at 4:30.
At 4:30?
We want to meet on Buffum Road.
What's the address?
It's 19 Buffum, Buffum.
So we'll meet
And
there.
it's Unit 5.
All right.
Right by the railroad tracks.
Yep.
Yeah, right by the railroad
Yeah,
tracks.
and just a forewarning, I know that driveway, our lot at that location, I just got notified that the septic field is going to be redone. So
Excellent.
I think that could possibly be torn up, so just you might have to park on the road or
Even
something.
better.
Okay.
I like that kind of stuff.
All right, anything else for the applicant? All right, thank you. See you on the 4th.
Thank you, see you on the 4th.
Next on the agenda, new business is an application for a minor subdivision, 195 Blackberry Hill Road. It's the R3 zone, and the applicant is DeGrappo Builders LLC. Lee J.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is seeking approval of what I'm considering effectively a two-lot subdivision. I think we've been down this road before on another project. We've seen this previously in another subdivision that I indicated was not a subdivision, and I suggest this is the same. However, the title attorney involved has indicated that they need subdivision approval. The discussion surrounding the issue is very involved, and I will be happy to walk you through it at the meeting, which we're at tonight. As part of the applicant is trying to accomplish includes a 50-foot right-of-way to a back lot. The applicant has provided the soil profiles for the septic systems, test pit locations on the plan, as well as the proposed 100-foot separation between the well location and the septic system locations. Lot number 1 is shown. Shows an as-built location of a home that is already under construction. For the purpose of moving this application forward, I would suggest that the board could find the application complete and schedule the public hearing. Once the public hearing has been held, barring any negative comments from abutters, I would suggest that the board could approve the application with no conditions. Pretty straightforward. If I can pull the plan out, or the applicant could explain everything to you, but there is a house on the original lot. Lots, what I will call 2 and 3, were deeded over to someone else, and that someone else is proposing to split that parcel in 2. So the parcel as a whole was split. The board, hesitation board. The whole parcel was 1. The person that lives in this lot here, split this land off and sold it as 1. And now that person is seeking to get 2 lots out of it. Under the way state subdivision law works, this person is allowed 1 dividing without it being a subdivision. So therefore, the new owner is only seeking approval of 2 lots. It's not a subdivision, but title attorneys do different work than land use attorneys, than real estate attorneys, and some folks don't understand the law. So that's why we're here. It's pretty perfunctory, pretty straightforward.
Because they're looking at this as 3 lots.
Correct.
But just to get my mind clear, state law says, and it's not verbatim, but it's pretty darn close, the division of land, of 1 parcel of land into 3 or more parcels in a 5-year period constitute by state law a subdivision.
Except there's an exemption.
And that's the homestead.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the first lot, they've been there for 5 years or more.
So who said it's a subdivision?
The title attorneys that are telling them they
Only
can't
the
move
title
forward
attorney.
until you guys approve it.
Your friends.
They're not my
They're
friends.
this guy's friends.
All right.
We're keeping Kimball in business.
It is what it is. We have to do it. So.
That's right.
All right.
Hi, Isaiah Plant with Kimball Survey and Design. Lee J basically covered everything. Essentially, when this lot was split, the intent was for DeGrappo Builders to purchase 2 lots from the Rickers through that homestead exemption. When it was drafted, I'm not gonna name the attorney, they described it as 1 lot, and that's why we're here.
Probably be pretty easy to
Somehow it got through closing, described as 1 larger lot instead of 2 lots. So everything meets the ordinance. We're just asking for a subdivision approval of a 2-lot subdivision.
Questions?
Not so much a question, but, and I think it's fine, because I looked at the plan, but the 50-foot easement that the Rickers and you have negotiated to make this happen, can you just tell us about that? So looking at the plan, the actual easement is given by, is actually taken by the Rickers from you because they had sold you the whole 2-lot area, right?
Essentially, but what happened was the larger lot was sold to DeGrappo Builders, a 50-foot wide.
Which includes the 50 feet of
Yes,
the easement.
in fee.
That's- Right, that's.
And the
what-
Rickers reserved a 50-foot right-of-way over that
Okay.
in the event that they ever do another lot. Okay, and if they did, I think Lee J
So
might agree
my
that
question
that
would
probably is
be,
exempt.
next question
So
would be to
it's-
Lee J, because that 50-foot easement is part of the 2 lots.
Yes,
And Rickers will be getting an easement over it.
correct.
Does that change the definition by our land use ordinance of a 50-foot easement to service a rear lot?
No, because the Rickers are only getting an easement to use that as access if they
It's
choose to in the
owned by
future.
DeGrappo.
Correct. Correct.
So that's clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, that would what? Make it a non-conforming lot?
Yes.
Well, it would be an encumbrance on a piece of land that they're including in
And
their
it's-
density requirements.
And, yeah, and it's clearly not
Okay.
happening that way.
I will point out that the Lot 2 in the back is a 4-acre lot, and it meets the density requirements without the right-of-way, without the
And you've
roads.
reduced the lot area, because you need 300 by 300 there, but you've reduced the wetland out of there.
Correct.
Okay. So that's covered too.
Yeah.
And there's no other wetland on the front lot on the street.
There is on the front,
There
but it
is.
meets that too. The front lot is 2.57 acres, and it nets, what is the minimum lot size, 80,000 square feet? It has 93,000
93,
square feet,
yeah.
so.
Total is 112, and that's 93.
So I
Yeah, it's
think,
pretty, I mean, this is pretty straightforward.
I mean, there's four waivers.
Yes, I believe so.
This is unique.
What's that?
This application.
We've done it, we had this issue one other time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the only town I've seen it happen in. And it's not unique in any way to Berwick. It's just both times I've seen this happen, that they've had to come for some reason for 2 lots, both here in Berwick.
Same attorney?
I don't know, I don't ask.
no. No, the other one was on,
okay, is the application complete?
I mean, it seems like they've covered. I would think it would be. I mean, there's not, except for the funny easement, and the wetlands are covered in the density for the calculations, I think.
Yeah, and looking at,
Except I think a site, we don't need a site visit for this, but probably have a quick public hearing. You
Right.
probably get-
and everything's been met, and it's the subdivision findings of fact, all the standards have been met.
Right.
So, anybody see a reason to not think the application is complete? Nicole?
No, no.
Okay.
I mean, it looks complete to me.
All right, so the motion would be to find the application complete.
I'll make the motion that we find the DeGrappo application complete.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's approved, 5-0. So we should schedule a public hearing for October 4th.
Okay.
Oh, it's gonna be a busy day.
Does that work for everybody, October 4th? Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works great. Just, can we do the approval that night, assuming everything's in order, and we do
I don't
public
see why
hearing and
not.
that all in
I
one?
don't, unless there's any major subdivisions, what was I gonna say? Unless there's any major
that
objections
need
or
to be
changes or anything like that, sure.
Okay,
Bring the Mylars.
bring the Mylars.
Yes.
But, with the public hearing, you never know.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I've been there, I know. Absolutely.
there may be some natural beauty, and it is a beautiful area there, because I live close to it.
No worries.
All the test pits were good, no issues.
Yeah, everything's good. I mean, the first house is up. That's one of the reasons to move this forward, is the first house is up, sided, pretty much ready to go. And that's gonna be going on the market sooner than later. So we're gonna look to have the approval in place, so we don't have to sell an oversized lot with a single house on it.
Yeah, yeah.
The sidewalks out to the end of Blackburn.
Sidewalk. The sidewalk to
Great deal
nowhere.
for somebody.
All right,
All set?
that's all set, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, are there any informational items that members of the board would like to share with other members of the
Oh, you must have
board?
lots
Come on,
to
you got
talk
something,
about
right?
tonight.
I haven't done any planning for this.
Oh, just
But
wing
I will
it.
say that Berwick's first brew pub is opening Saturday, officially.
Mhm.
And, I'm quite excited.
Are they gonna be open both days?
Yes,
Yeah.
12 to 6.
Cool. I'm not available Saturday, but, Sunday.
And Saturdays also, it's a major day because, God, I think I usually can only remember 3 things at once, but I think I've got 4 this time. The brew pub is opening. The Town of Berwick Historical Society is having a yard sale right at the town hall. Another big thing is the Great Falls Park. We're going to do a little bit of cleanup. Sabrina Galashaw's in charge of that. James Bellissimo has a band coming to the green space where the defunct ice rink used to be. And some of us are gonna be working on the town forest in the parking lot at Prime Tanning, and there's gotta be other stuff. That's
There-
5
And you need an
things.
extra finger because the library.
It's 4 and a half
is having its
things, yeah.
farmers
That's right, they're
market
having
that
their
day.
farmer's market
So
that
that's-
day.
throwing
that's
It'll be one of the
everything-
busiest days in Berwick in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
All on
So-
Saturday?
I'm gonna
All
ride
on
my
Saturday.
bike.
So
It's a
we've
happening
extended,
place to be.
Saturday's
Often.
gonna be, we're gonna go 26 hours Saturday. We're gonna stretch the day.
Well, I hope they have some
Is-
beer
is
left
it
for
the end of
Sunday.
daylight savings time, so we gain or lose the
I bet they'll
hours?
run
That's-
out.
Gonna be
Don't
daylight
drink it all,
twilight time.
Paul, okay?
I don't know. I saw a lot in there
Really?
in their
Plenty of
cold
beer?
room. Yeah, I saw the pictures of their cold room. There's a lot in there.
I'm
Let
a
me tell
little,
you, those guys that
I'm
are
very
busted-
interested in the Ridland Road
Yeah.
Brown Ale,
Yeah.
personally, so
I want the
save me
first
some.
one on the list.
coffee,
I tell you what, if they-
coffee ain't bad either.
Yeah,
I didn't think I'd like that, but it's not
Can you
bad.
imagine if they ran out? That's a sign of this town, then, huh? That we
Yeah.
like to, that we wanted our
Could get
beer.
ugly.
riots.
Yeah,
And they're worried about marijuana.
absolutely. Come on.
Anything else? Okay. Finally, we have another public comment session. The last one here. If you'd like to come forward and talk about anything about the planning board, feel free. Other than that, seeing nobody else come
It's-
forward.
It's still early.
I'll move, we adjourn.
That's awfully simple, Nicole, but I'll second that.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor?
I haven't moved for an